The corridors of the Zerithian embassy gleamed under artificial starlight, their crystalline walls pulsing with bioluminescent veins that responded to the emotions of those who walked beneath them. Tonight, they flickered with an unusual pattern of deep purples and muted golds, colors that spoke of sorrow and hope intertwined. Ken Rodriguez pushed his cleaning cart down the hallway, the soft hum of the anti-grav unit barely audible above the ambient thrum of the embassy's life support systems. His weathered hands gripped the handle with practiced ease, calluses earned from 15 years of keeping alien spaces pristine for diplomats who barely acknowledged his existence. The night shift suited him perfectly. Fewer people meant fewer awkward stares at his worn uniform, fewer whispered comments about the human janitor working in the most prestigious alien facility on Earth. More importantly, the night shift meant he could bring Liana. His 8-year-old daughter sat cross-legged on the observation deck at the corridor's end, her dark hair catching the ethereal light as she worked on her tablet. The embassy's educational AI had taken a liking to her, providing advanced mathematics and xenobiology lessons that far exceeded anything her underfunded school could offer. Can had initially worried about bringing her to work, but directors' ethics had not only approved, they had insisted, claiming that human children possessed an intuitive understanding of universal harmony that even their most learned scholars envied. What the director hadn't mentioned was Princess Lyrelai. The young Zerithian royal appeared as she always did, materializing from the shadows with the fluid grace of her species. Her skin held the characteristic opalescent quality of the Zerithian nobility, shifting between silver and deep blue as her emotions fluctuated, estimated to be equivalent to a human teenager. She possessed the elongated limbs and large expressive eyes that marked her people as descendants of an aquatic evolutionary branch. But where other Zerithians communicated through complex harmonic frequencies that could convey entire philosophical treatises in mere seconds, Princess Lyrelai remained silent. She had not spoken, not even the simplest harmonic greeting since the attack on her homeworld 3 years prior. Ken paused in his cleaning routine, watching as the princess approached Liana with tentative steps. This had become their nightly ritual, though the adults of both species seemed unaware of it. The princess would emerge from whatever duties occupied her days, and Liana would look up from her studies with the bright smile that had been her mother's most beautiful feature. "Hi, Princess," Liana said softly, using the simplified honorific that Can had taught her. "I'm working on stellar cartography tonight. Want to see?" The princess settled beside her with fluid grace, her large eyes focusing on the holographic star charts that danced above Liana's tablet. Her delicate fingers traced constellation patterns in the air, and Liana laughed, a sound like silver bells that seemed to make the corridor's bioluminescent veins pulse with warm golden light. From the shadows of an alcove 3 levels above, Empress Thirlith watched through eyes that held the weight of 1,000 worlds. The ruler of the Zerithian collective had not meant to spy on her daughter, but her nightly visits to check on Lyrelai's progress had become exercises in heartbreak. Her daughter, once the most promising young orator in their court, had retreated, so far into silence that even the most skilled mind healers despaired. Yet here, with this human child and her humble father, something miraculous was occurring. Ken finished sanitizing the nearby wall panels and moved closer, settling onto the floor with the easy familiarity of someone accustomed to finding comfort in uncomfortable places. "How was your day, Princess?" he asked, his voice carrying the gentle tone he used with Liana when she was upset. The princess's chromatic skin shifted to soft lavender, a color the Empress recognized as contentment mixed with deep sadness. Lyrelai pointed to her throat and shook her head with the universal gesture of inability. "That's okay," Can said simply. "Sometimes words aren't necessary." He began to hum, a simple earth melody that his grandmother had sung to him decades ago. The tune was ancient, predating space travel by centuries, yet it seemed to resonate with something fundamental in the princess's physiology. Her skin began to shimmer with patterns the Empress had not seen since before the attack, swirls of gold and deep emerald that spoke of joy and belonging. Liana joined in, her young voice weaving harmonies that shouldn't have been possible for human vocal cords. Yet there she was, a child from a species barely capable of interstellar flight, creating music that made the embassy's walls pulse with colors that conveyed emotions the Zerithian language had no words for. Then, impossibly, a third voice joined, them. The princess began with the barest whisper of harmonics, frequencies so subtle they were almost below the threshold of hearing. But as the simple earth melody continued, her voice grew stronger, more confident. She wasn't singing words. The complex linguistic structures of Zerithian remained beyond her reach. But she was making music, creating beauty, expressing the emotions that had been locked within her since that terrible day when the Valthak raiders had silenced her world. 3 levels above, Empress Thiraleth felt tears, an emotion so profound that even her species' advanced empathic abilities struggled to process it streaming down her face. In all their centuries of advanced medicine and psychological sophistication, they had failed to reach her daughter. Yet this human, this humble maintenance worker, who earned in a year what most Zerithian citizens spent on a single meal, had accomplished what their greatest minds could not. He had given her daughter back her voice, not through technology or therapy, but through the simple act of accepting her silence while offering the gift of shared music. As the song ended, Princess Lyrale looked up at Can with eyes that held gratitude beyond measure. Her first words in 3 years were barely a whisper, spoken in accented but careful English. Thank you for teaching me that broken things can still make beautiful music. The Empress closed her eyes and made a decision that would change the course of interspecies relations forever. Tomorrow she would offer Ken Rodriguez not charity but partnership, a position as cultural liaison that would recognize what he had always been, not just a janitor, but a healer of hearts. Some bridges, she realized, were built not with technology or treaties, but with simple human kindness and the universal language of love.